In the early days of video games, VFX was limited by the technology available. The first video games were created in the 1970s and used simple and basic graphics, which made it difficult to create realistic and complex VFX. To get around this, early video games used flipbook animation and palette switching to create simple animations and special effects. Flipbook animation is a technique where images are displayed rapidly to create the illusion of movement. Each image would be slightly different from the previous one, with the position or appearance of an object or character being slightly altered, allowing developers to animate a wide range of VFX, such as explosions and water, and simple animations like jumping or walking. On the other hand, palette switching was a technique used to change the color of an object or character on the screen. This technique was used to create limited animation frames with different colors. For example, an 8-bit game might have an animated character using flipbook animation, and then use palette switching to change the color of the character's clothes or skin if they get hit by a particular effect. Both techniques created simple but effective animations and special effects in early video games. With limited hardware capabilities, game developers had to be creative and resourceful to create animations and special effects that were visually interesting and engaging. As the early 90s rolled around, developers and artists continued to refine flipbook animations due to their flexibility and meager resource cost. Games like Street Fighter, Sonic, and many other iconic games utilized flipbooks creatively to bring their sprites to life. Flipbook animations were a staple of video game VFX for most of the 80s and 90s. It wasn't until the birth of 3D games that the industry began to shift. While artists still heavily relied on flipbook animations in the early 2000s, the adoption of particle systems and advanced shaders allowed game developers to create more visually impressive special effects. Games like Half-Life 2, Far Cry, and Doom 3 used particle systems to create detailed and realistic VFX with dynamic lighting, natural physical phenomena like smoke, fire, and water, and interactive elements like debris and bullets. These advancements greatly improved video games' overall visual quality and increased players' level of immersion. Particle systems also allowed for more flexibility in VFX design, as they could be programmed to react to different conditions and events in the game. For example, a particle system could be used to create realistic smoke and debris when an explosion occurs, or to simulate the movement of water when a character jumps into a river. This increased interactivity in video games, making the VFX more dynamic and responsive to the player's actions. Earlier, we mentioned shaders. A shader is a small program that runs on the graphics card and adds detail and realism to special effects in video games. Early shaders could add details to explosions, magic, and other special effects by animating textures. Textures are essentially 2D images applied to 3D models to add detail and realism. By animating these textures, developers can create the illusion of movement and change in the special effects. By using particle systems to move particles, flipbooks to animate the particles, and shaders to add further details to VFX, artists of the time had a surprising amount of flexibility when it came to creating VFX. As technology advanced, particle systems and shaders were further developed and optimized, allowing for even more advanced and realistic VFX. New features such as volumetrics, fluid dynamics, and real-time lighting became possible. With the advent of next-gen gaming consoles and powerful PCs, developers were able to push the boundaries of what was possible with VFX, creating games with increasingly realistic and immersive worlds. Games like Battlefield 1, Assassin's Creed Origins, and Horizon Zero Dawn used advanced particle systems and shaders to create stunning VFX, such as realistic weather, detailed character animations, and dynamic, destructible environments. Examples of realistic weather can be seen in games like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, where the weather system is dynamic and changes depending on the player's location and time of day. Similarly, games like Red Dead Redemption 2 have implemented advanced particle systems to create realistic and immersive smoke, fire, and other VFX. Fluid dynamics create realistic water and other liquid effects in-game. This includes things like waves, currents, and ripples. For example, in the game Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, the fluid dynamics are used to create realistic waves and currents in the water, adding to the realism of the game's ocean environments. Volumetrics are used to create realistic lighting and atmospheric effects in a game. This includes things like fog, mist, and smoke. Volumetric effects help develop a sense of depth and realism in the game's environments. For example, in the game God of War, volumetric effects create realistic fog and mist, adding to the game's sense of atmosphere and immersion. In the future, technology advancements are expected to push real-time VFX even further. One of the main areas of focus is real-time ray tracing, a technique that allows for more realistic lighting and reflections in games. This technology is currently being developed by companies like NVIDIA and AMD, and is expected to become more widely adopted in the future, allowing for even more realistic and immersive VFX. Another exciting area of focus is the increased use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. These technologies are being used to create more believable and lifelike characters and creatures, and to create more dynamic and realistic special effects. For example, using AI to simulate the behavior of fire, water, and smoke in real time, rather than pre-animated sequences. In addition, motion fluid simulations are becoming more advanced, allowing for more realistic and dynamic fluid effects like water, lava, and fire. Games like Control and Metro Exodus are some examples of games that are already using this technology to create more realistic and immersive environments. So yeah, VFX are pretty cool.